First of all, I'm going to say what a spectacular concert you gave last night. Utterly wonderful. The highest standard, truly. And I was very, very grateful to be a part of that. I'd like to congratulate everyone here, the graduates and professors, the graduates for coming this far so far, and the professors for guiding you all through. And while I'm on the subject, I'm going to bring in all the family members and friends and congratulate you too for being part of this wonderful celebration. So let's do this thing together. Let's all stand up and take a bow for having come this far, everybody in the whole entire hall. That's what we like. That's what we like to see, the collective spirit. You can take your time sitting down, but not too long, please. Today is a tremendous day of satisfaction and accomplishment after all the years of dedicated practice, effort and study that you've undertaken. I hope it's been a valuable experience and you'll be able to carry it with you for the rest of your lives as you evolve and develop as musicians and human beings. Standing here with you, I have to say that never in my wildest dreams would I ever have imagined that on Saturday, the 11th of May, 2013, I would be the recipient of such a prestigious award as this, a doctorate from Berklee School of Music. So in the United States of America, it is almost unbelievable, and I deeply am humbled by that. Thank you so much. So with your permission, I'd like to take a few minutes to share some of the milestones from the earlier part of my own journey in the hope that it might encourage and inspire you. My story has been completely out of the box in almost every respect, so I believe that it's important to acknowledge the value and power of unorthodoxy. It all began with a small plastic toy piano that I could pick out tunes from at the age of 3, and the fact that I loved to sing all the time. I didn't come from a privileged background. It sounds almost old-fashioned to say it, but my parents were working class. We lived in 2 small rooms in a tenement flat in Aberdeen in Scotland, and making ends meet was challenging. Looking back, I can identify 3 significant events that actually got me started. My parents realised that I had a musical ear, and by the time I was 6 or 7 years old, I was singing in a local choir every Saturday morning and having piano lessons at school with my teacher, Mrs. Edith Murray, who taught me how to read music and subsequently learn how to play the melodic lines and chordal progressions of Bach, Mozart, Mendelssohn, Beethoven, Debussy, and such like. Music lessons were an extra expense in a household where every penny counted, so I'm very grateful for the fact that my mother and father thought it important enough to cover the payment of those lessons back then. £4 a term, that was what we paid for the lessons, you see, was the equivalent of just a few dollars. But I realise now just how much that small sum contributed to my life's future trajectory. As it happened, Aberdeen had an annual music festival, and I gave my first public singing performance there in the music hall in 1961 at the age of 7. Little did I know that I would ever come to be known or recognised as a singer-songwriter. I didn't even know that such a thing was possible. Female songwriters didn't even seem to exist at that point in time. Remember Carol? At the age of 11, I was given the chance to learn how to play an old, battered silver flute. Its keys were held together with elastic bands, and on my first lesson I tried to create a sound on it so intently that I passed out to my utter shame, indignant embarrassment. But the instrument fascinated me so much that I persevered until I could actually produce a sustained note without fainting. When I was 17, I auditioned for the Royal Academy of Music in London, and they actually offered me a place. It was my passport to the big city and a way out of my provincial hometown. My head was full of dreams that were about to implode as soon as I stepped into the building on the first day of term, when my new flute teacher pointed out that my technique was a complete disaster. And I'd need to unlearn the way I'd been taught and relearn everything all over again. I think that was the point when I lost my love of flute playing forever. And spent the next 3 years just trying to avoid classes. I realized I really didn't belong there, and the whole thing felt like a terrible mistake. So I just did as little as possible and tried to keep my head down. Needless to say, after 3 miserable years, I took the decision to drop out on the very last month of term, slipping through the back door like an embarrassment, with no idea as to what I was going to do next or where I was headed. With one heart-stopping phone call, I told my parents that I decided to leave the academy and everything was going to be just fine. That was a lie on my part, of course. I suspected, as so many young people do, that my mortified parents would never understand me. I couldn't share my dreams, my hopes and my fears with them, as it would have further convinced them that I was dangerously unhinged and needed to be recalled back to Aberdeen as soon as possible. So that's the part of the story when the protagonist, that's me, it's 21, found herself dangling precariously on the precipice between survival or checking out of the programme entirely. Get what I mean? I didn't graduate. I dropped out. Please hold that thought. There's another part to this story, you see. It runs in parallel to the first narrative, and it goes back to when I just turned 14 and was surreptitiously meeting boys and going out dancing at the local dance halls if my father would allow it, and listening to the chart hits on my small transistor radio every morning before going to school.